The painting that records a crime without showing it. This painting doesn't show a battle. It doesn't show violence. It doesn't show death. But many historians think it actually captures a crime hidden in plain sight, inside one of the most famous paintings in history. This is The Night Watch by Rembrandt. And the more you study it, the clearer it becomes that something went terribly wrong. Officially, this painting is simple, a group portrait. They paid Rembrandt to immortalize their unity, their honor, their power. Instead of order, we see chaos. Instead of symmetry, tension. Instead of harmony, conflict. This is not a celebration. It's an exposure. Everyone had to be equal. Everyone had to look important. Others are awkwardly cut off. Two men dominate the composition. The rest feel pushed aside. That choice was not artistic rebellion. It was accusation. The men who paid and disappeared now notice the others. Some are half hidden. Some are pushed into darkness. Some barely exist. These men paid the same amount to be painted. Yet Rembrandt minimized them. Why? Because this painting may not be about unity, but about hierarchy, corruption, and who truly held power behind the scenes. They are brightly lit, dominant, commanding. But look closer. The lieutenant's hand reaches forward, and the shadow it casts lands directly on the captainess' groin. In 17th century visual language, this was not accidental. It symbolized power, dominance, and control. The men who paid and disappeared now look past the captain, past the lieutenant, past the figures bathed in light. Look at the rest. These men were not extras. They were not background characters. They were paying clients. Each one contributed the same amount of money to be seen, remembered, and respected. And yet, some are pushed into shadow. Some are partially hidden behind weapons or bodies. Some are barely recognizable at all. In 17th century Amsterdam, this was more than an artistic choice. Visibility meant status. Light meant importance. Shadow meant silence. So why would Rembrandt do this? Because this painting may not be about who stood together, but about who was pushed aside, about who held power and who was quietly erased. This is not unity. This is hierarchy. And in that imbalance, many historians see the first cracks of something much darker. The girl who shouldn't be Théâtre now focus on the strangest figure in the entire painting. A young girl. She doesn't belong to the militia. She isn't part of the guard. She isn't armed. And yet, she glows. Her face is bathed in light. Her hair shines. Her presence cuts through the darkness like a signal. Rembrandt makes sure you see her before you understand her. Hanging from her belt are disturbing details. A dead chicken, claws exposed, symbols of defeat and death. In Dutch visual language, these were not decorations. They were codes. Some historians believe she represents the defeated enemy. Others see her as a symbol of corruption within the group. And some argue something even darker, that she is a ghost, a reminder of a crime, a victim, a presence meant to haunt the men around her. Why place her at the visual center of the painting? Why give her more light than the paying members? Because she may not be a character. She may be a message, and once you notice her, you can never unsee her. Because this is where the painting stops being symbolic and starts becoming dangerous. At the center of the composition, Captain Frans Bannon Koch extends his hand forward. At first glance, it looks like a simple gesture of command. But it isn't. His hand casts a shadow, and that shadow lands directly on the groin of the man beside him. This is not accidental lighting. Rembrandt controlled light with surgical precision. In 17th century visual language, this gesture carried meaning. An accusation, a mark of guilt, a public signal of responsibility. Now notice something else. That same man is dressed differently. His weapon is handled awkwardly. His posture feels defensive, not authoritative. He doesn't lead. He reacts. Some historians believe Rembrandt used this gesture to expose internal conflict, a power struggle inside the militia. Others go further. They suggest this shadow implies betrayal, corruption, even involvement in a crime that the painting refuses to show directly. And here's the most unsettling part. If this theory is true, Rembrandt didn't paint a group portrait. He painted a visual accusation and hung it in public for everyone to see, without words, without names, without protection. Just light, shadow, and a hand that points forever. The girl who shouldn't be there now. Look at the girl. She doesn't belong to the scene. She's not a soldier. She's not part of the militia. And yet, she's impossible to ignore. She glows. Bathed in an unnatural light, she stands out more than any armed man in the painting. Rembrandt makes sure your eyes find her, even if you don't know why. Hanging from her belt are two disturbing objects, a dead chicken and a pistol. In 17th century symbolism, the claws of a chicken represented a defeated enemy, a sign of shame, of humiliation. The pistol, a reminder of violence, of a shot already fired. This is not an innocent mascot. Many historians believe she functions as a symbol, the embodiment of the militia itself. But others see something far darker. They believe she represents a victim, or worse, evidence. Her wide, empty expression feels detached, almost ghost-like, as if she's not fully alive. And remember, she is the brightest figure in the painting. In a work supposedly celebrating honor and unity, why is the light centered on death? Why is innocence placed beside weapons? Rembrandt doesn't answer these questions. He lets the silence do the accusing. And the more you look at her, the harder it becomes to believe this painting is about pride and not about guilt. When all the clues align at this point, something becomes impossible to ignore. None of these details exist on their own. The light, the gestures, the expressions, the strange figures placed where they don't belong. Everything points in the same direction. This painting is not chaotic by accident. It is carefully constructed confusion. Rembrandt guides our eyes with precision, from one figure to another, from light to shadow, from action to stillness. What should feel like a unified group doesn't. Some figures move forward, others hesitate, some look alert, others seem distracted. There is no shared focus, no clear leader, no single purpose. Instead, we see imbalance, a moment where coordination breaks, where harmony fails, where something has already gone wrong, even if we can't name it. This is where many historians pause. Because if this painting were meant to celebrate order, it would show clarity. If it were meant to honor unity, it would feel stable. But it doesn't. It feels interrupted, as if we are witnessing the aftermath of an unseen event, not the event itself, but the tension it left behind. And that may be Rembrandt's greatest trick. He doesn't show us what happened. He shows us what remains. The night watch endures because it refuses to give us easy answers. It doesn't explain itself. It doesn't guide our conclusions. It simply places us inside a moment that feels unresolved. That discomfort is intentional. Rembrandt doesn't show us a clear story. He shows us uncertainty, tension, human imperfection. And that is why this painting still speaks centuries later. Not because it documents an event, but because it reflects something timeless, how power operates, how groups fracture, how truth can hide in plain sight. If this video helped you see this painting differently, not as a static masterpiece, but as a living question, leave a like, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more stories where art reveals what history leaves unsaid. And before we end, something important. The only intention of this channel is to honor and value the art of history's greatest artists. We don't claim ownership. We don't rewrite their genius. And we don't take credit for what is not ours. We simply observe, analyze, and respect the meaning these artists left behind. Because understanding art is one of the most honest ways to respect those who created it.